So my big shop air compressor failed and will be subject of an upcoming video, but in the meantime I thought I'd dust off my old vintage Campbell Hausfeld 20 gallon, and when I went to fire it up, this is what happened. If I let it run, it will eventually pop the circuit breaker. I did check the oil, it's fine. I rolled it over by hand, it turned over fine. The cord is good. In my experience, I would say 90+% of the time, the problem is simple. We'll dig into it a little bit and see if we can figure out what's going on. This one's going to be the start capacitor. This one's going to be the run capacitor. I'll loosen that one up. Take this one all the way off. Avoid losing these. I'm going to put them up here for now. You got to be careful that you don't touch those leads, because these capacitors can hold a charge for a considerable amount of time. Since we just tried to run it, there's a good chance that there's still some voltage on here. We're going to do this the wrong way. Kind of try to pry this out. Made in USA, you can tell this is old. So I know that I need 2 blacks on one side and the red on the other side. Sometimes these will be a little tough to get off. So before I screw around and touch these and shock myself and make weird noises, we will take these in to the bench, put a meter on them, and give them a quick test. I'll see you guys over there. We're going to go ahead and make these capacitors safe, and we'll talk about them for just a minute. It is remotely possible that some material could discharge from these contacts if a large enough spark occurs, so I would recommend some eyeball PPE. I've always done it with just an insulated screwdriver. Make sure you grab the insulated handle, set it across one set of contacts, and touch it down so that it makes contact with both sets. Do that several times. Make sure there's no charge left in it. The start capacitor is slightly different because it's 20 times or more the capacity of that one to shock your pants off. So this one, I recommend you grab the can in your weak hand, do one strong Kegel and hold it so you don't pee if it sparks, and then do the same thing. Touch the contact, make sure you touch them all, touch them together. Nothing happened. Pretty boring. Okay, now that these are both deemed safe, one thing I should mention here, if you pull these out of service and you notice that they're cracked, in particular the start capacitor, which is this one in this sort of phenolic resin impregnated, whatever it is. If this one's got visible cracks in it or it's leaking, don't even bother testing it, just get rid of it. The run cap, or if it's got aluminum body, you're looking for bulging of this can, or if it's leaking around the terminals or this top cover, same thing. Get rid of it. I turn our meter at first onto the ohm scale. The ohm scale is the little upside down horseshoe, the Greek letter omega, and we're going to check the aluminum body of the run capacitor to the contacts to see if either of them are shorted. And not that one, the other one, not that one. The start capacitor, it's non-conductive, so we don't need to perform that test. So now we're going to move down to this. This is the capacitance symbol here. Since these are not polarized, we're going to connect each of the leads to either of the terminals. And you can see this one, which is rated at 20 microfarads, is within range. So that one tests okay. Now we're going to do this guy, the start capacitor, same thing. And this one, the range is 378 to 455 microfarad. And you can see by the reading there, we've got 386. So, thing is, these caps are old enough to run for president, so there's a good chance that they are underperforming at this point. And since both of these together cost about $23, I've already ordered replacements, and I have those right here. We'll start with the run capacitor. And one thing you're going to notice right off the bat is that these are different part numbers, different manufacturers. So you can see they're similar but different. So the start capacitor has the same epoxy resin material that the old one had, but you can see that the physical dimensions are significantly different. As long as the microfarads are really close and the voltage rating is at least what your line voltage is, in this case 120, you're in good shape. Same thing with the run capacitor. This one's obviously shorter. This one 20 microfarad, 370 VAC. And this one's the same rating. let's take these puppies out there, get them installed. All right, guys and gals if you're watching, I hope you are. I came up with this carbon fiber material. It's about a 1/4 inch thick, and I use this for sweating copper pipe near bare wood and finished walls so that I don't burn my house down. So this will work fine. So we're going to go ahead and put the black one on one side. Doesn't matter as long as they're both on a different side. Now this one has 3 wires, but it's the same thing. We just need to make sure the 2 black are on one side. Go ahead and put this one up here. Okay, so you can see, it's super simple. That's not really going anywhere. Okay, this one's going to be slightly trickier, but same thing. We'll wrap this around there. Should be fine. I'll tuck that down in there. And we should be all set. Looks good. Am I super confident? Not really. So here we go. Still doing it. So we'll do the next easiest thing and then work from there. Now we've got that done. We know those are going to probably last the rest of my lifetime or longer. And it'll be somebody else's problem. Right now, I'm going to take this cover off. I think that all just comes right off of there. So basic operation. The motor comes on, turns the belt rotates this flywheel, and this pump is just like a car engine. It's got a cylinder in there, the head, piston, connecting rods, a crankshaft. Instead of having a spark plug and everything, all it does is pump air. It just pumps air, goes through this line, into the tank through a check valve, which is right down here. In there is a check valve. This line that comes off of here goes to this little valve over here, which is an unloader. And what the unloader does, if you look, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little pin on there. When you flip the power switch to off, it pushes that little pin in, which opens that valve. And all that does, this line that tees off of there, is it releases head pressure so that there's no pressure on the cylinder head. Without it, the next time it goes to start, it has to overcome inertia of sitting still, plus all that head pressure. And then the check valve keeps the air that's already in the tank from bleeding back through. There's a contactor. You can see that little green button. Opens and closes the contact. See how it closes that contact? So it's possible that those are pitted or crusty to the point where it's not reliably staying running. So the first thing I'm going to do is close those on a piece of sandpaper and then run the sandpaper through there a few times and see if I can clean that up. I've gone ahead and cleaned this other set of contacts. Can't really see in there, so I didn't get it on film. We are going to go ahead and walk this belt off. Okay. The pump rotates this direction, so there's an arrow. See that arrow right here? Now we're going to check. This should just freewheel, and that's perfectly fine. I've got 0 play, so these bearings are good. No motor noise, no dragging. I'm going to go ahead and manually close that contactor and see if this motor will freewheel and run normally without any load. Okay, so we're plugged in, we're hot. I'm not going to touch this with my fingers because there's hot lead right there, and it's vibrating like crazy. With no load, everything seems to be working. Loosen up these 4 nuts on the outside. Hoping I don't have to take everything apart, but we shall see. Better idea if I can get them all out. These long bolts that go through there. 4 of these guys. Nothing particularly exciting about them. Except this one's going to stick. That part was uneventful. That's good. No rust or crud or corrosion or anything. See if this will actually do what it's supposed to. I highly doubt it. Oh, it moved. Okay, she's moving. Outstanding. So this is the centrifugal switch assembly. So what happens is when the motor gets up to speed, a certain RPM, these weights on the outside of here overcome the spring tension and cause this to swing out like that, pulling this plastic plate away from here. Okay, now if we go back in here and look at where this makes its contact, these fingers are what contact this plastic plate. I don't know if you can see that inside of there. Right in here, there's another contact. So when this is off and this plate is relaxed, these are pushing against that contact. Okay, so that closes the circuit and energizes the start windings, which puts this start capacitor in the circuit and does its thing with its boost. Once this gets up and running, the weights swing out and this pushes in, it relaxes the tension on this and causes that contact to break, which pulls the start windings out of the circuit. Otherwise, it would overheat this capacitor and it would fail pretty quickly because it's not designed for continuous duty. I've got my meter out, so I'll put this on continuity so you can hear it. So if I hold these on here and I push this down, it makes contact. I know I said I wasn't going to take this cover off again, but I did because the easiest way to check it was just to put my probes across the contact. Okay, now close this. Okay, so we got contact. I've wrung out a bunch of these connections and motor windings. Motor checks out good. Here we just need to make sure our wires are out of the way. Make sure we get our fingers behind this bearing so that we don't damage it trying to jam it all together. Okay, those are in the right spot. Right about there. And we'll go ahead and get one of my screws started. Make sure that's lined up. A little tappy tap. Go ahead and button this down. Kind of cross it up. Pull that on evenly. Gently so I don't get anything smashed. Check this ground. We're plugged in. Okay, so we still don't have the belt on, so we should have the same level of success we had when we closed the contactor by hand. So let's give it a shot. And there's a centrifugal switch kicking back in. I wonder why that has a braking effect. Oh, you know why? Maybe because a motor that's running acts as a generator and it backfeeds that capacitor. And this is the original belt, by the way, which is actually in oddly good shape still. Okay, now we look good. Hope for the best. So we're running out of stuff. It's gonna be a weird solution. Let's see what happens. Huh, this is a weird one. All right, well, I'm gonna have to give her some more thought. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off the air line because it's easy to do, it's in the open, and I'm gonna go ahead and take out the check valve at the same time and check that. Okay, so I'm gonna start down here. Hopefully this will come loose. That's not bad at all. And that one was tight, but not ridiculously so. I don't know if these are just flared or how these work. So one of you, yep, it's just got a little bubble flare. Everything looks clean. Hopefully it won't be too tight. Can I get a socket on there? Let's try that. Oh man, that's tight. Okay. We got her loose. It required a 4-pound hammer and some loud banging. It's still kind of tight. Let's see what we got here. It's pretty tight. Oh yeah, we had a little air in there. There's a little crust on there. You see that? And this was definitely some type of sealant on there. Take my filthy rag and wipe off the filthy threads. Okay, it blows that way. This the other way, and this is probably carcinogenic, so don't do this at home. Okay, cannot blow the other way, so I'm going to say, even though this is a little crusty, that it's probably good. Camera's on my knee, so bear with me for a second. Try to get you a look inside the tank here. I'm lowering this little flashlight into the hole. I'm going to use a little toothpick, strap a board to its ass, butt, as it were, and see if you can maybe see down in there. There's a lot of junk in there. There's not a ton of corrosion, but there's a lot of junk, like weld spatter and just chunks of metal and everything. I got my new parts. The check valve is Hromee, H-R-O-M-E-E. So this works fine. I'm actually going to reuse this one and save this one for the big girl when I dig into that hot mess. And here is the new unloader valve. The new one is a little bit longer. So I found a washer that'll fit on there perfectly that will take up that space and put it in exactly the same position. So that'll be fine with that. I'm going to go ahead and replace the old hose, new ferrule and nut. Need to kill it. Popped it out of my vise. Don't break it. We're $14 in. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pop this guy back in. Clean it up a little bit. I've had this stuff forever. Made by ARP. Just thread sealer. This stuff gets all over you. And this stuff doesn't really dry. Leave it right there for now. There's so little room, you have to start the nut before you get it in there. That's pretty tight right there. I think we're just gonna leave her slightly less than symmetrical. Plug that guy in. Okay. Put this cover back on. That, I believe, is good. Disappointment City. Same thing. Basically, we're back to mechanical or electrical. I can turn over by hand without issue. We know it's pumping air into the tank because it's held a little bit of pressure. Contactors we cleaned. It's still possible that there's an issue with the contactor. It could get weak. It could be failing. It looks fine. What about source power? Okay, I'll bite. That's quick and easy. Let me grab my drop cord. This is a 30-foot 14-2, which is not recommended for decent sized compressors because it draws too much current and the cord can get hot, it can pop the breaker, the compressor motor will run slow. So we've used the same outlet, so that's constant. So that's actually a good thing to change up. Easy to try. Okay, powered up. So let's go. Son of a mother. New unloader works perfect. I'll be go to hell, as my beloved grandfather used to say. Do y'all remember back in the beginning of this video when I was saying that 95% of the time it's something simple? So my power outlet's got problems, which is interesting because I've used that thing like it is for decades. In fact, this bandsaw, which I was running maybe a week ago, is also capacitor start motor, and that worked fine. So weird but simple. So now I gotta troubleshoot that circuit. That's weird. It's almost like a phase problem, but it's only single phase power. I don't know, I'll have to dig into that. All right, guys and gals, problem solved. And now we've got a unit with new unloader, new capacitors, pretty much refresh. I'll do an oil change. Right on. But I'm curious why I've got wonky power on there, but I got other things that's ahead of that. All right, so here's where I've been working on my small compressor. And if you look right up on the wall here behind it, you can see my regulator for my main shop air supply. And I just have rubber hoses going all the way around the shop right now. So that green hose coming out of there goes through the wall. If you come into my actual workshop area, you can see the big compressor. The big girl's got issues. Green hose goes through the wall and right into here. Now, terrific. That can't be good. When you drop something and it sounds like a plinko machine, it's not usually going to be easy to find. Oh, I got lucky. It plinkoed all the way through. I can blow things off again. If you guys can figure out what this vehicle is, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Year, make, model. You can tell she's got a low tire because it's low. It's flat on the bottom. Oh, beautiful air. Get back on an even keel. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something. I learned something. And comment down below if you've got better ideas about stuff or you got tips on troubleshooting that you want to share with everybody. It just makes everybody's bag of tricks that much better. Again, I appreciate you watching. Come back and watch the next one.